I'm Josh Harder. I really just want to start by saying a huge thank you to President Ed Kelly. Thank you for your leadership of the firefighters and your tireless support on so many issues that I know are important to communities like mine across the country. And I also want to give a huge shout out to Secretary Treasurer Frankie Lima for all the work that he does. Thank you for making sure that our firefighters are in the conversation, have a seat at the table, and are making progress on so many issues. So thank you for your leadership as well. I represent Stockton in California's beautiful Central Valley, and my family's been around our area for a long time. We started a peach farm in 1850. We've seen a lot, but let me tell you, what we've seen happening in our fires over the last couple of decades is absolutely unfathomable from where we were just a few decades ago. Last year, the Coral Fire in Tracy got within less than a mile of my home. It took 300 firefighters over 2 weeks to put that fire out. And without their tireless work, my home would have been burned down, just another victim of these devastating megafires we've seen happen all across the West in recent years. I've spent a lot of time sitting down with fire victims and hearing directly from them what they're seeing. And I hear three themes again and again. First, I hear the real sense of loss that comes when you lose your home, even potentially your loved ones, the priceless family mementos that you've lost, whether it's the memories of a loved one who's no longer with you, or just one of your kids, those paintings and those memories of their early years that you'll never have again because of that fire. The loss is real. I hear the gratitude of the firefighters that put their life on the line to try to save those victims' homes and try to protect that community. I sat down with some of our firefighters recently who, in the midst of one of these mega fires, were going in for days and days on end into hundreds of degrees high temperatures. They were coming out, they were getting hooked up to IVs just for an hour to rehydrate, and then they were going back in the fire. 23 hours a day for days on end because we don't have enough firefighters. And that work is seen and that gratitude is real. But the third theme that I hear again and again from victims of these fires across my community is a sense of anger at politicians in DC, Sacramento, and across the country who have not done more to invest in the fire prevention that we need, to make sure that tragedies like the ones happening in my community and that happened down in Los Angeles only a few weeks ago don't become the routine story over and over again. And I really want to thank the IAFF for being a leader in trying to make sure that folks wake up to the realities that we're facing. Time and time again, our firefighters answer these calls without hesitation. And you have our full-fledged support, but it shouldn't have to be this way. I know right now when you're in DC, it feels like Republicans and Democrats can't agree on what to actually get for lunch, let alone how to actually work together on our most pressing issues. But fire has always been one of the most bipartisan issues in the United States, and we need to keep it that way. And we need to make sure that with that bipartisanship comes a sense of urgency to respond to these challenges with a lot more action than what we've seen. We've had some improvements, right? Last year, we were able to secure millions of dollars for upgrades on fire training centers. We helped get $648 million for SAFER grants and assistance to firefighter grant funding. I know when I talk to my firefighters locally how much that does to make sure that we have more bodies out there and to make sure that we have advances in the best-in-class technology to keep you all safe as you're out fighting these fires. We've also led efforts to reauthorize training programs to make sure that our first responders are safer and more effectively responding to some of the other tragedies, like our opiate emergency that we have. And some of the fire departments in my area, and I know this is true for many of you, the most important job that we have is responding to healthcare crises and to homelessness issues, as opposed to fighting these fires. So we have to make sure that we advance those issues as well. But despite some of that progress, we have not done nearly enough. And this year needs to be a year where we are coming together to make progress on making these megafires a thing of the past. We can do that by making sure that we are working on legislation like the one that I helped draft with the IAFF. This is real basic stuff. This is common sense. What it does is it makes sure that we can actually hire more firefighters, to make sure that we have no fire trucks sitting idle in a time of national emergency. Making sure that we can have wildfire-related protective equipment to make sure that folks are actually kept safe. Investing in research on the impact of respiratory and PFAS exposure, training local firefighters on responding to wildfire incidents, so it's not all up to the National Forest Service and to CAL FIRE in my state, but to make sure that we are actually equipping our local firefighters with all the resources that they need, and improving coordination, cutting some of the red tape that is holding us back from doing the preventative maintenance and the real necessary burns to make sure that these fires don't get out of control time and time again. As you know, we no longer have a wildfire season. We have a wildfire year. If in December and January we are having devastating fires, no place in the West is safe at no time. And so my hope is that over the next year, we can make these common sense improvements to ensure that we have a focus on prevention and not just on fighting these fires when they blaze out of control. This is a top of mind concern to me because I represent the asthma capital of the United States. It's not just the fires that are taking a huge toll on our property and on our communities. It's the fact that all that smoke often sits in our area. I have two young daughters, a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, and I had childhood asthma when I was a kid, and I want to make sure that they don't have to remember to pack an inhaler in their backpack when they go to school because of this wildfire smoke that is happening. But I also know that most of you, many of you, all of you, don't get a choice. You have to go out there in these fires time and time again. And so it is past time that we invest in that research and in that important equipment to make sure that you come home to your families safe, and then when you retire at the end of a well-deserved chance to catch your breath, that you have access to the world-class care and retirement security that you deserve. We are going to work with anybody, Republican, Democrat, it doesn't matter, to work to make progress on these issues, because we have to. If we don't, we're going to continue to have hundreds of thousands of acres burn time and time again in my home state, in my community, and across our country. So I look forward to working with the IAFF, and let me just end by saying a huge thank you to the work that all of you do out in my community every single day, but also a real thanks for being a common sense partner and trying to find solutions. This is a moment when I think Washington could learn a lot, looking at our firefighters and trying to respond to problems the same way that you do, trying to make sure that we're coming together, working together, as opposed to just pointing fingers. When you are in the midst of a crisis scenario, whether you're walking into a burning building or whether you're dealing with somebody on the street who needs care, you can't ask the color of their jersey, you can't ask who they voted for, and neither should folks in D.C. So thank you for being an example that I hope more folks around this area pay attention to, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure that you have the resources that you need to come safe to your families and to make sure that our families are kept safe as well. Thank you, and have a good rest of the day.